Welcome back to the Nürburgring and the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. It's race number 23. About to get underway here at this 3.629 kilometer circuit at the Nürburgring. Bathed in sunshine as we are. Be looking for a fine race from the Formula 3 drivers who are assembled on the grid as our long and high shot will reveal. Just to the very right-hand side of your screen, the cars are all out there on the grid right in front of our commentary position here. And it was in race 1 earlier today, Stroll, Günther and Russell. And it's Stroll, Günther and Russell, P1, P2, P3 on the grid with Ericsson, Cassidy, Nico Carey, Ralph Aron, Callum Eilert, Anton Hubert and Guan Yu Zhu, the top 10 drivers on the grid. Now, we did promise that we would bring you updates of what caused Nick Cassidy's momentary loss of pace in race number 1. To reveal all, I cross to my learned friend alongside me from the motorsportarchive.com. It's Leo Gorman.
The virtual safety car came on in his car.
What? So the button just illuminated and that was it?
Yeah, effectively. I'm not even sure if it was a button as such that, that was pressed, but the actual electronics kicked in. And so Nick Cassidy's car slowed to effectively, I think it was 60 or 80 kilometers an hour on the back end of the straight. Now, that happened only for a couple of seconds, but Nick lost further time still. Because, of course, it took him because it was on the back straight, everyone else is on full pelt. Yeah. He has to then try and get back up the speed. So in total, he actually lost 5 seconds over the course of that lap. It was enough to drop him down from a comfortable P2 to a P4, where he actually ended up in a battle with Callum Eilert and coming into the first corner. So Nick was not happy. The Prema guys were not happy.
Did you not say that this is not the first time it's happened in a Formula 3 car?
No, I was told in between the two races that another team has suffered the exact same problem this weekend, but it happened in practice, and therefore it wasn't so noticeable or a key element. Now, this is not, as far as I'm aware, this is not something that is going to be used in F3 as of yet, but the technology in the electronics box is there.
So it obviously exists. Well, one driver that really was able to take advantage of that is the driver that we're focused on now from iTech GP, or we were, and that, of course, was George Russell. Yeah,
because he went from up to 3rd place and was challenging Maxi Günther for 2nd place. And I think the Prema guys, you can say, okay, they still won the race, they still got 2nd place, but they were still very, very, very disappointed.
They could have had a podium lockout, couldn't they?
That could well have been a 1-2-3 for the Prema guys.
Well, as we continue our look down the grid, we look at the man that was affected by that, Nick Cassidy, who, yes, wants to go forward from P5 on the grid and hope that no electronic gremlins will affect his race in race number 2. So Nick Cassidy going from P5. Going from P6 is Nico Carey, who races for the Motopark team, who's had a couple of, he's had 3 podiums, 2 2s and a P3, hasn't he, as Nico Carey. But thus far, I think I'm right in saying that the win has eluded him.
He's had a very, very, very up and down season, has Nico, and it's, you see some races where he's really, really on it and really pressing and going for the podium position. As you said, he's picked up a couple of times, but then on top of that, you see plenty of races where he seems to be fighting for 12th to 13th place. He is a Red Bull driver, and he is in constant contact and constant review with the Red Bull junior team. Okay, it's all well and good to say that you got a podium here and there, but they want you to do that every single week.
I was going to say, you talk about the constant contact, the constant, it's constant pressure as well, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Callum Eilert was one of those that had the Red Bull backing, didn't he?
I actually remember a few years ago, Carlos Sainz, when he was in the very, very early years of this championship, and he was telling me that they would have, in the debriefs, sometimes they would have a second debrief. You'd have one with their engineers, and then you'd have a second debrief later on with the actual Red Bull people later on. And it's an awful lot of pressure. Yeah. But Red Bull, they make big investment in these guys.
Well, of course they do. And they want a return on that investment. So,
talking about other junior teams, Red Bull do get an awful lot of attention because they're there. They're in the Red Bull colours. It's very much in front of you. Lance Stroll on pole position. He's a Williams development driver as well. Nick Cassidy, previously part of the. He had previous contact with the Red Bull program, and then you got Ben Barnicut starting in 14th place. He's with Racing Steps Foundation. And Sergio Sette Camara, he's another driver who's starting last today. He got a penalty for an engine change. He's on the Red Bull program as well. It's a lot of drivers there who are actually part of these programs.
Yes,
and they're you can't all win.
No. You just saw Peter Mucker walking away from the grid there. Mucker Motorsport, or K-Styler 24 APR. Mucker Motorsport, just one of the teams represented. We've talked a lot about Prema, and the reason being they are supremely successful. But there's also, of course, Van Amersfoort and Moto Park and High-Tech GP and... one team, though, that is missing this weekend, and if you weren't with us for race number 1, we'll just briefly explain that Carlin are missing not only this weekend, but potentially Imola as well, I'm led to believe.
Yeah, they lost 2 of their drivers, Alessio Lorandi and Ryan DeVita. Ryan left the program first. I believe he may have gone back to America. I don't know at this stage if he's setting up a program there. And Alessio has followed that up. He's not finishing the season either. They did have a third driver, Weiren Tan, who I'm not entirely sure, but I believe he may have been on a race-by-race basis anyway. Okay. But I think he's going to back to Asia to race over there for the moment. So Carlin, they're taking this race weekend and they're taking Imola out to kind of really rework their team, yes, shall we say? Because Carlin, they're a top team. They don't, you don't just take any drivers. They've produced champions over the years.
So many that we could talk about. Well, we look forward to seeing Trevor Carlin and the team back at the season finale at Hockenheim. We just await the final red light to go out before the formation lap. Now, what's going on here?
Look through the spares box.
Okay, read into that what you will. Lance Stroll, pole position then, and Lance Stroll in a very, very healthy position at the top of the points. There's been a lot of media attention surrounding Lance Stroll, particularly over the last week, and I can say from the people that I've spoken to who are very, very close to Lance Stroll's programs, that nothing has been confirmed yet.
And you know what? I was chatting to Lance and some of and his manager earlier on today, and you ask him that question, and they kind of, they roll their eyes. We don't know when something is announced, it'll be announced. But for now, Lance is concentrating on this championship.
Yes,
he still has to win it. He's got a good advantage of 68 points over Maxi Günther. But, his concentration at the moment is to nail this European Championship, because let's not forget, to start in Formula 1 you need to be able to apply for the super license, and that means getting the super license points. So Lance cannot do that until he wins this championship.
Well, he's certainly in a very, very good position to do so, isn't he? It's not a done deal yet, it has to be said.
No.
But on the experience that we have had of watching Lance Stroll this year, you would be a seriously brave man to bet against him taking the championship, wouldn't you? And we've only got to look back just a couple of hours to the first race today, where it's absolutely faultless driving.
Yes, he was absolutely faultless, got a very, very good start and pulled away. And he's on pole position today again. He's got Maxi Günther, his teammate, alongside him, who may actually be concentrating a little bit on third place man George Russell, because George Russell, even though he's on the second row of the grid, it's actually the racing line. So he's going to be on the line with the best grip. He's going to be on the line that's very, very much rubberdine, whereas Günther is going to be on the dirty line. And Günther being on the inside, he's going to have a slightly narrower track into the first corner as well.
Yes. Well, the car's all weaving, trying to generate some temperature into those tyres as they head towards the start of race number 2. 3 races, of course, in the 3 European Championship. And I was just looking at, it looked like there was a bit of blistering on the front left as we looked at it of Lance Stroll's tyres.
I do wonder if that's probably the older set of tyres that Lance probably used in practice and qualifying. The only other thing that's going to be the other challenge of this start is, of course, it's now 10 past 5 in the evening. The sun is coming down, and it's pretty much not. It's in the driving line of the eye line of the drivers as well.
A lot of focus on the Prema Power team then as they, first of all, look in the toolbox and spares box and then look on the pit wall. So Maximilian Günther then P2. Lance Stroll is P1. We get the green flag from the marshal at the rear when 5 lights are extinguished and the lighting gantry will be away and racing. And this time around, Maximilian Günther gets a very, very good start. Slightly better start, I would have suggested, than Lance Stroll may be as they head in towards turn number 1.
Yes, it looks as if Gunther's definitely got the inside line and the lead coming through turn 1. George Russell forced out wide as he battles with Ericsson for P3, and very much lost a lot of traction coming through that corner as Cassidy looks to take advantage around the outside of 4.
So the opening lap then, and through the first sequence of turns come these cars, and it's Maximilian Günther that leads from Lance Stroll, and Joel Eriksson is in P2. Then is George Russell P4. Then it's a battle for 2 or 3 there, cars together.
And someone's gone off, and I do believe that is a Callum Eilert. And there's been a collision. Nick Cassidy's gone off the circuit.
Oh, my goodness
Now,
me.
it's interesting as they came through turn 5, Cassidy, Eilert and Ralph Aron were very, very much together. And I think that may be the result of them filtering out on the exit of 5. And Prema guys very, very disappointed with that.
So Nick Cassidy then is... luck is something else, really, isn't it? As Maximilian Günther and Lance Stroll make their way through the NGK chicane.
Oh, and it's Barnicott lost it in a big way coming into the chicane, and has actually run into the back of one of the Mucka drivers, and he instantly takes his steering wheel out of the car. That was a huge hit, and it looked as if he didn't have any kind of control as he came into the chicane. That's another retirement. And from today's race, safety car. From today's race, when we had no retirements and everyone drove very, very skillfully and very, very well, we've had 2 incidents on the first lap already.
Yes,
there's Barnicott.
Race number 1 was, as you say, it was completely incident-free.
I'd love to see a wider shot of that, because it looked as if Barnicott came into the chicane with so much speed and almost out of control already at that point. It was a big hit.
Now, unrelated to that was Cassidy going out, but you think that was contact with himself and potentially Callum Eilert? They were together?
Well, Ralph Aron was there as well, so it was the 3 of them came in together. Now, this will be interesting to see. Now, this is the Barnicott incident, I believe, as they... Oh, he got hit from behind.
Yes, he did.
But that wasn't Newey. I think that might have been Newey. Oh, no, I think he's hit Newey as they've come down. So that is Mazepin, who's actually is actually PK's teammate. But that would explain a lot, because he's actually taken excess speed coming into the corner. He's not actually had the opportunity to brake.
Now, did Barnicott get hit, or did he come across on Mazepin? Because looking at it from that angle, it looked like he came across.
Yeah, it looks as if he's... Oh, my word. He's got an awful lot of air there.
And I mean, to be fair to Harrison Newey, where could he go?
Yeah, true. It's unfortunate for all of those guys, but you don't really want to see incidents like that in the first race. It's silly little mistakes like that.
Well, it's the second race, but the first lap, and you're absolutely right. When the first race today was utterly.
And yeah, it was Cassidy and Eilert got together.
Well, to be fair, Cassidy was pushing Eilert onto the grass, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And Eilert's not going to be too pleased with that, I don't think. Cassidy, as a result, has dropped out of the race, and I just wonder if maybe that spin has probably just conked Cassidy's car dead completely.
Well, there is Nick Cassidy, who... and this is George
Russell is pulled into the pits as well. And they're looking at the suspension, so maybe was there some other incident that we missed? That's unusual.
Well, safety car is leading the cars around. And tell you what, Callum Eilert recovered well from that being pushed off, didn't he? Let's see. Here comes a replay of the start then. And just Maximilian Günther got a split-second better start, I think, than Lance Stroll.
Absolutely. It looks as if Stroll's initial jump off the line was probably not as efficient as what Günther was able to get. And it's...
Antoine Huber here took 2 or 3, didn't he, going into turn number 1. Just look at that. He's got that outside line, hasn't he?
And with Cassidy and Eilert gone, Huber's now to P5 as well. Good effort from the young Frenchman who won the French Formula 4 Championships a few years ago. And I mean, it's interesting.
Well, for my money,
it's
looking
a suspension,
at that,
isn't it?
And that was the...
Yeah, I see what you mean. I see. It looks as if maybe Barnicoat has possibly come back onto the line.
See it from this angle.
But I think we're talking small measurements, really. But the active thing is he hasn't actually had an opportunity to brake coming into the corner, because effectively he's moved over, and before he's hit the braking zone, he's actually in the air.
Well, that's not what we want to see, is it? George Russell out of the car, Ben Barnicoat out of the car as well. So those two cars are definitely out. We know Nick Cassidy's car is out as well, and Ben Barnicoat there having a discussion with the high-tech team there about that.
And it's interestingly enough, that's George Russell third in a championship out of the race. Nick Cassidy fourth in the championship out of the race. Callum Ilott fifth in the championship. He's just dropped down to seventh position. The big winner at the moment is Joel Eriksson, who's in third place, but probably far too far behind the Russell Ilott Cassidy battle to really make a big difference overall.
Okay. Well, we've still not rounded the George Russell incident, have we?
I didn't see any contact in the first corner that would have actually initiated such an issue for George, but he's going to be very, very disappointed.
So it was Günther then that got the marginally better start than Lance Stroll and converted P2 to P1. Joel Eriksson, as Leah said, is now up to P3. And then it's Ralph Aron and Antoine Hubert, and then David Beckman, Callum Ilott, P7, Nico Carey is P8, Guan Yu Siu is P9, and PK is P10 with Mikkel Jensen, Sergio Seta Camara, and Mazepin, who is still running, and Harrison Newey, who's still running as well.
I'm quite curious. I can't really tell, but has Nick Cassidy maybe damaged the suspension, or is it just wheel damage?
I think he's got a punctured rear as well.
And that just gives the impression that maybe the car is slightly lopsided. But if it's just a puncture, that's curious that he's effectively pulled off the circuit and stopped, unless the actual engine stopped as he came back around as well.
Well, that's possible, isn't it? So the safety car continues to lead the cars around until the Nick Cassidy car is out of harm's way, which it is now, which means the safety car is going to come in this lap and we can go back to racing. We've got 25 and a half minutes of the race still to run. As you can see, the clock at the top of the screen continues to count down, even whilst we are behind the safety car. Now, does this provide an opportunity to Lance Stroll to perhaps try and wrestle that P1 position back that he had from pole position?
I think it really depends. I think the actual safety car start line's after the chicane. So whoever gets the best, and they're not watching the race. Why aren't they watching the race?
I think they are, from the balcony of the hotel, which of course overlooks the start-finish straight. What a perfect position to be in. Yes, you're right. The safety car line is just beyond the chicane. So here is the safety car, and Max Günther then is backing them all up and really vigorously weaving from side to side. Lance Stroll, of course, is going to try and anticipate where Maximilian Günther is going to floor it, isn't he? So Günther goes for it now. Lance Stroll and Joel Eriksson, P2 and P3. No overtaken until they cross the safety car line. As cars all come through the NGK chicane, there's the line.
Here we are. So that's a solid start, a restart by Max Günther as he goes through the final corner onto start-finish straight. Green flags waving from the marshals by the side of the track. Let's see who's going to try and make a move in the start-finish straight and into turn one.
So Maximilian Günther then, as he crossed the timing line, had 4/10 on Lance Stroll, which means probably Lance is just a little bit too far back to have a go.
I think that's Seta Camara on Jensen. It's going to be for 11th place.
Eriksson and David Beckman's car there, we could see in the familiar Muka colours. Make the way out of the Mercedes arena. Our race leader is Maximilian Günther, P2 is Lance Stroll, and Beckman and Ilott having a real ding-dong battle there, and Nico Carey is just behind them, and kicking up a bit of dust there is Lance Stroll, to be fair.
got very, very wide coming through that section. Just as a note, by the way, even though they were involved in the incident, both Mazepin and Newey are actually still in the race. You just see them on screen now, at the back of the grid. Newey did visit the pit, and Mazepin, who, in fairness, actually probably looks like it just spun throughout the incident, but both of them have carried on.
Okay, into the NGK chicane they come then. And this is by far and away the closest battle, isn't it? You have Callum Eilert and Nico Carey and also David Beckman. And there is where, just running onto the grass there goes...
don't want to do that
Lance Stroll. Played into the hands a little bit of Joel Eriksson, because Lance would have lost a little bit of time there. Here they come into turn number 1, downhill.
And we also see that's...
lock up there from Seta Kamara, wasn't it?
He's trying for a move on PK coming through the first corner. Kamara is making his way back up the field after the 10th place grid penalty for an engine change that initially began in Spa. He qualified actually originally on pole for race 1 and of course lost that, but for second qualifying didn't go quite as well. He only registered the 14th best time, so ended up only losing 3 positions, but you know what, he's picked a few people off the line and he's picked a few people off from that incident on the first lap.
So Günther then 9/10 over Lance Stroll, and Ericsson is a further 7/10 behind Stroll at the moment, with Ralph Aron, Antoine Hubert, then Beckman, Eilert, Carey, Zhu and PK occupying the next places to round out the top 10. So this is Seta Kamara then, and already ahead of him on the inside was PK, wasn't he? But Seta Kamara...
Well, slight liberty, one might argue, with the track limits on the exit of turn 1 there, but the stewards really haven't been looking at that to any great degree so far this weekend. Of course, whether that will change when it comes to overtakes, we'll see on our screens later on. Meanwhile, still battles at the back of the grid, and that is Jensen having a right old ding-dong with Harrison Newey.
So Harrison Newey then, who did pit, but is back out again, has got the Mikkel Jensen car ahead of him. So P1 and P2, they've both pulled out quite a margin over Joel Eriksson running in P3 and Ralph Aron then in P4. So there is our leader, and Lance Stroll is not letting him get away too much. There's only 6/10 between the two of them, and bearing in mind Lance Stroll had a little excursion onto the grass there. He's recovered well, and he's certainly got the pace, and was 3/10 quicker on the last lap.
Absolutely, and he's got the fastest first sector of all in the first lap of this race as they come across, and it's the fastest second sector as well for Stroll on this lap. He's really catching the rear of Maxi Günther. I think the gap must only be 3/10 of a second as they come into the final corner now. Is he going to line up a move coming down to start-finish straight and possibly nail his teammate into the first corner, or the turn 2, turn 3 section? We'll see in the moment. The gap is 4/10 as they come across line. It is the fastest lap of the race for Stroll. He's right under the rear wing almost of Günther, but he's not going to make a move this time around. Wasn't
quite close enough, was he? He just took a look, didn't he, and realised he wasn't quite close enough. In the meantime, Antoine Hubert and Ralph Aron continue their battle over P4 and P5.
We saw in the first race, Dave, with Callum Eilert especially, when he was battling with Ralph Aron, that sometimes 4/10 of a second, it's just not enough. You need to be almost 3/10 behind across the line to really be able to get close enough to make a move into turn 1. So Stroll's going to have to work a little bit harder to make a move on Günther if he's going to want to take the win in this race.
Well, we know he's got the pace. He's certainly proved that. And there you can see over lap 8, lap 7 and lap 6 how that gap has come down between Maximilian Günther and Lance Stroll. So Stroll's certainly not letting him get away with it. Now, the incident involving car number 24, which was that of Ben Barnicoat, is under investigation because, of course, also involved in that was a separate incident involving car number 2.
Nick Cassidy with Callum Eilert.
Investigation, yes, that was the Eilert Cassidy investigation. There's plenty of conversations going on down there on the pit wall of Prema Power Team as they cross the line now. It's still 4/10, so arguably it might be just a little bit too much, although Lance is later on the brakes as they turn in for turn 1, but again he's certainly not close enough. And Maxi Günther at the moment is able to just control it and prevent Lance Stroll.
Maxi at the moment, he's doing just enough to make it. Stroll has taken several tenths of a second out of him over the last few laps, but he's keeping ahead at the right places to make sure that Stroll just can't make those final little sectors to make a move.
Now, what's interesting here is that this is a real test for Lance, isn't it? In terms of what he can do and reeling in a car ahead of him and to overtake that car as well. Both of them are making great headway because they've left a 2-second gap over Joel Eriksson, who is running in P3.
And it's the old saying in motorsport: catching is one thing, passing is quite another. It was just as true in 1960 or 1940 as it is in 2016. It's close, but it's still just not quite there. Stroll is continually actually pushing the envelope. Another purple sector in Sector 2, but Günther is also actually Günther is just taking the fastest lap of the race. And magnificent final sector from the guy leading the race at the moment, a 1:22.259. So they're pushing each other. It's not as if they're kind of laying back in the lead and having a great time of it and making it look easy. They are really running the car ragged.
Absolutely. So there is P1 and P2. And here in replay, something disappearing there.
Now, did that fall off? Did that fall off PK or Zhu?
I think it's Zhu.
It's a wing mirror.
Right.
Yeah, it's the left-hand wing mirror.
So we pick up the action once again then in this second FIA Formula 3 European Championship race. And there is PK, who is currently running just out of the points in P11. It's Sergio Sette Camara's got the last points paying position in P10. Guan Yu Zhu is ahead for P9, and then it's Nico Carey P8. And here, though, is P1 and P2, Maximilian Günther and Lance Stroll, who are both pulling away from Joel Eriksson, Ralph Aron, Antoine Hubert, David Beckman, Callum Eilert. 5 tenths now, the margin between Günther and Stroll. So a 1:22.251 from Günther last time and a 1:22.287 for Lance Stroll. So marginally quicker once again for Maximilian Günther. And it's seesawing between the two of them, isn't it, in terms of who is quickest?
They're almost matching each other throughout the actual Latvian alley. It's actually Guan Yu Zhu who's actually lost his left wing mirror, so you're absolutely right there, Dave. Günther is quicker. Stroll is quicker in the first sector and the final sector, but Günther seems to have a 2/10 advantage. He pulled it off and threw it out.
Yeah.
Good man.
Yeah, it was obviously distracting, wasn't it? And that's going.
Günther is actually making the advantage in the middle sector of the circuit, which is kind of keeping a status quo at this stage of the race. The gap is seesawing between 4 tenths of a second, half a second, and Stroll is just not getting quick enough at this stage to really push and make the advantage over Günther.
So through the NGK chicane once again, and we can go back to the point, can't we, where it's feasible, is it not, that Günther is on marginally better tyres than Lance Stroll for this race?
Quite possibly as well, and it'll be interesting to actually talk to the Prema guys about that later on, because Günther is on pole for tomorrow's race, and you kind of think, well, that's the race where maybe Günther would actually hold his fresh tyres.
Okay.
But also possibly Stroll was pole in race 1, pole today as well. He may actually have had no choice but to use slightly used tyres for today's race.
Well, he's increasing the margin, isn't he? It's up to 7 tenths now between P1 and P2. They're both 3 seconds ahead of Joel Eriksson in P3, Ralph Aron P4, then Antoine Hubert in P5.
And that is Guan Yu Zhu with Sergio Sette Camara making a move down the inside of turn 4. But actually he goes out wide, loses the position again. Actually, no, he's actually managed to stay ahead of Zhu, who's now lost position to PK.
And PK around the outside now. It's going to be a long way around there, isn't it, with Sergio Sette Camara?
And I'll tell you something, Dave. Sette Camara made that move down the inside of Guan Yu Zhu, where Zhu doesn't have a wing mirror anymore.
Yes. Yeah, very fair point. So, And there is, buying into it, is Mikkel Jensen as well in the K-Styler 24 APR Muka Motorsport colours. Dives to the inside and he's going to do it.
Wonderful move, very, very good move. And
Harrison knew he's going to have a go as well.
Zhu's lost drive coming out of the chicane has actually given Nui the option to actually go down the inside, but that started again because Jensen made a move down his left side where Zhu no longer has the ring mirror and has actually put a lot of frantic moves across the track, but it's given Kamara the opportunity to make the move. Meanwhile, Harrison Nui defending hard, and Mazepin, who's had a frantic spin and not gone back to the pits, is actually still doing relatively solid lap times. He's in the 23s.
Oh, Mazepin just carried so much pace into that turn number one. I wondered if he was going to be able to scrub that speed off. So there we can see the battle that was going on.
And Zhu got a slide there, actually. Big, very big slide.
So, correction on our timing screen with regards to messages. The incident involving Nick Cassidy and Callum Eilert is under investigation.
It's still very much Cassidy really forcing the issue to a degree, I believe. But you know,
certainly as we saw it, that was the case. Wasn't it?
But the stewards will have a lot more information, a lot more camera angles to work from. And what's notable to degree is although we don't see it on their broadcast pictures, all these cars do have onboard cameras. But they're not for broadcast at this time anyway. They are downloaded by the stewards. Every entrant, every driver has to supply an onboard feed. And that is
Nico Carey, isn't it?
That is Ralph Aron and Antoine Huber for P4 and P5, and you got David Beckman and Callum Eilert just behind for P6 and P7, battling hard for a top 4 position. Aaron, he's not really on the pace of the 3 in front of him. He's in the mid-23s, while Ericsson, Stroll and Günther on Ps are doing mid-122s. And Eilert really fighting hard to get a position back after he lost so much on that opening lap clash with Cassidy.
So this is Callum Eilert in the number 6 car then, who is chasing down that David Beckman Muka Motorsport car. Callum Eilert, of course, driving for the Van Amersfoort racing team. And as you say, he was disadvantaged by that coming together with Nick Cassidy. That cost him dearly. And Callum Eilert, certainly in the 2 races that we've seen so far today, is not having the best of luck, is he?
No, I don't think he's having the best of fun this weekend. And he's difficult sometimes because he is a very good driver. He's very, very quick. But as we saw in Zandvoort and other races this year, occasionally he gets locked in behind drivers who are in other cars. And he can be a quick driver. Does he need to be more aggressive? That's probably something that he sits down with his engineers and talks about.
Well, of course, all the drivers debrief after every single race as we watch Antoine Huber there in the number 21 car. There is Maximilian Günther that is leading, and all of a sudden Lance Stroll has picked his pace up, hasn't he? And is back within 5/10 of Maximilian Günther. What have we got? Just under 10 minutes remaining in the race.
And in fairness to Eilert and all the drivers in this championship, these are not easy cars to overtake in. They're very, very difficult. You need to work hard, and Stroll's really working hard on Günther now as they come to the chicane at the end of lap 16, and the gap is down to 1/10 of a second as they came across the second sector line.
Now, Lance Stroll will line Günther up for a go going into turn number 1, because you have to set that up, don't you, off the back of the chicane as they cross our commentary position right in front of us, heading in towards turn number 1.
Now it's 4/10 coming over the line again. Günther pulls out as they come through the final corner, but Stroll positions himself on the inside of the first corner. Günther maintains the regular racing line, as it were, doesn't distract the race leader at all, but Stroll's really pressing hard on his Prema teammate now.
So all of a sudden it's coming back to haunt Maximilian Günther. And Lance Stroll really putting the pressure on now in the final 8.5 minutes of this second FIA Formula 3 European Championship race here at the Nürburgring. Race 1, of course, earlier on today, won by Lance Stroll with Maximilian Günther P2 and George Russell P3. At the moment, it's Günther, Stroll and Ericsson, the 1, 2, 3. And Günther, whatever he does at the moment, his rearview mirrors are absolutely full of his Prema teammate, Lance Stroll.
And Lance getting another run down the kink on the back straight. Will he try and knock down the inside now into the chicane? He does. Lance Stroll takes the lead of race 2 here at the Nürburgring.
So Lance Stroll then on the back straight behind the paddock. Gets ahead of Maximilian Günther. Günther now relegated to P2. Joel Eriksson, of course, remains at P3 for the moment. And here it is in replay. Stroll just comes out of the draft behind the number 17 car and is through into the lead.
Both the Prema guys lost quite a bit of time over those last couple of laps as they were battling very, very hard with each other. And it's allowed Ericsson to close up ever so slightly. Probably not close enough to pressure Günther at this stage, but the gap is down to just 1.5 seconds between second and third place.
So Stroll leads, Günther P2, Ericsson P3, then it's Aron, Hubert, Beckman, Eilert, Nico Carey, Sergio Seti Camara and Piquet round out the top 10 with less than 7 minutes of the race to go. So there is David Beckman and Callum Eilert. David Beckman then in the K-Styler 24 Mugen Motorsport colours. Callum Eilert in the colours of Van Amersfoort Racing. And we're now, as you look at that Joel Eriksson car, Joel Eriksson, who is certainly last time around, as Lee had mentioned, clawed quite a bit of time because of the battle Stroll and Günther were having. And Stroll has got his nose in front. He's back up to the pace that we would expect of him, as too is Maximilian Günther. Although Stroll was 1:22.328, Günther a 1:23.2, and Eriksson quicker than Günther.
Yeah, and now that they're kind of out of each other's hair, shall we say, they're able to get back up the pace and drive the race that they can absolutely drive to get the best times possible.
So there is Ralph Aron, who is being reeled in by Antoine Hubert. There's 5/10 between them. And there is 5.5 minutes of the race remaining. So Beckman then, P6. Callum Eilert is P7. And there is Beckman. There is Callum Eilert. Callum Eilert, of course, in that involved in that Nick Cassidy incident, which is going to be investigated after the race. And Callum is trying to make best what he can in terms of recovery from that, and is currently running P7, which is not where he would like to be. The Ralph Aron car goes through, closely pursued by Antoine Hubert. He's not close enough to be able to do anything, unfortunately, as they round the Coca-Cola turn, going into the start-finish straight. Lance Stroll leading by 1.6 seconds. He's pulled out over Maximilian Günther in the space of just a couple of laps since getting past him.
And a nod to David Beckman, who missed the first few rounds of this championship this year because he was actually too young to compete. I think this is one of his first visits to Nürburgring, definitely his first visit to Nürburgring in a Formula 3 car at least, and he's doing a very good job holding up, staying ahead of Callum Eilert for a top 6 position. You know, Mucke, who, to be fair, I think has struggled a little this year with 2 drivers. One of whom a proper rookie, but they'll be reasonably happy with that, I think, when you consider they're up against the might of Prema and Van Amersfoort, etc. Good job by the young man.
So less than 4 minutes remain. We watch the Ralph Aron car. Ralph Aron, of course, run by the Prema Power Team, one of the rookies, and Joel Eriksson is the best rookie at the moment. He's running in P3, but is the best of the rookies. Stroll, Günther, Eriksson, then it's Aron Hubert. So we've got 3 rookies together there, occupying positions P3, P4, and P5 at the moment. and indeed P6 as well, because Beckman is in there.
And it's Nico Kari and Sergio Sette Camara battling there, and it's a battle between the two Red Bull driver cars, and Sette Camara has done the job. He's gone past Kari. Kari is also under pressure from Piquet here as they come down to start-finish straight. Will Piquet make the move into the turn one? Yes, he will. He's done it. Kari on the outside. He's not going to get a good enough drag or get enough acceleration out of turn two. And so Piquet solidifies 10th place and a point.
So changing at the bottom end of the points order then in the final stages of this race.
And I think it must have been a mistake probably from Kari, because he lost 1.5 seconds in that final sector alone, which the final sector only really is the chicane in the last corner.
He was really, really close to the wall, wasn't he? And
he didn't make it easy, did he?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't, that's for sure.
And Kari actually got an awful lot, he slid an awful lot through that first corner as Piquet solidified the position. He didn't look like as if he had good traction where you would normally start accelerating. It looks like he was still trying to gather himself to a degree, which kind of ensured Piquet was ahead going through turns 2 and 3.
So here comes our race leader, Lance Stroll then, 2.3 seconds to the good over Maximilian Günther. Then it is Joel Eriksson. But then still being reeled in by Anton Huber is Ralph Aron, who is running in P4. And there is the Joel Eriksson car running in P3, as I mentioned, and winning the rookie race, if you like, in this particular race. He is P1. He's the best rookie, but P3 in the race. There's Anton Huber then, continuing his quest to try and get on terms with Ralph Aron, but has not been able to do so. He's not quite close enough yet. We've got 1.5 minutes remaining of this FIA Formula 3 European Championship race before the cars are worked on ahead of race 3 to come tomorrow.
And Huber there on screen now, the Van Amersfoort driver, he's still plucking away. He's in 5th place, only 4/10 behind Ralph Aron for 4th place. Very good job by the Van Amersfoort driver, who, let's not forget, this time yesterday, they were really scratching their head after qualifying sessions that didn't go their way at all, as they were having difficulties managing their cars in this more heated conditions, shall we say.
Of course, we're at about 5:45 in the evening, so the temperature is beginning to drop, isn't it? And I wonder if that is, to a point, just playing into the hands a little bit of Van Amersfoort. So Stroll, 2.6 seconds to the good over Günther, Eriksson, the P2 and P3 drivers.
Probably telling Huber's maybe having some slight issues with the tyre wear at this stage. The way he's really sliding his car through some of the corners now at this stage. And he's not the only one. There are several drivers out there who are doing the same. So it's quite conceivable some of these drivers who use these tyres during practice sessions. That is Mikkel Jensen on Nico Kari as well. Did they come together? Oh, yes, they do touch, actually.
Quite a lot.
Quite a lot, actually. And
both get locked together.
Both of them are very lucky that didn't end up being a much bigger incident than it actually was, but I do believe that allowed Harrison Newey a run down the inside coming into turn 2, turn 3. Whether he actually made a position or not, I have absolutely no idea. But to finish my point, some of these drivers would have run these tyres in practice and qualifying already, so may already have several laps on them, so they could be really hitting that point where they're maybe not working anywhere near as effectively as they used to.
So Lance Stroll starts the final lap of this race then, as does Maximilian Günther and Joel Eriksson, and still Ralph Aron and Anton Huber. Anton Huber's got to light it up now because it's the last opportunity he's going to get to have a go on Ralph Aron going into turn number 1. He's certainly close, but not close enough. Stroll increased his margin over Maximilian Günther. It's now up to 3.1 seconds between P1 and P2.
And just the other main battle on the this last lap as well is Callum Eilert in P7, only 0.6 of a second behind Beckman. He needs to have one hell of a final lap if he's going to make that position.
You can see the back end, though, of Eilert's car just drifting there, which is a consequence of the tyre wear that you've suggested right at the end of this race, isn't it? But Lance Stroll, again, well, he didn't have it all his own way today and has had to fight hard and work hard to get himself back into a race-winning position, which is the position he is in as he rounds the final Coca-Cola turn and heads towards the checkered flag. It'll be 2 out of 2 for Lance Stroll here at the Nürburgring this afternoon as he takes the win, followed by Maximilian Günther for P2. For P3, it's going to be Joel Eriksson. For P4, it's going to be Ralph Aron, Antoine Hubert. Then it's Beckman, Eilert. Then it should be PK, Seta Kamara, then PK, and then Nico Carey rounding out the top 10. So, well, Lance Stroll again. Well, it wasn't a lights to flag, was it?
No, it was a slightly poor start. Allowed Günther to take the lead for the first portion of his race, and some of that, of course, was under safety cars because we had 2 separate incidents on the first lap.
Yes.
One between Eilert and Cassidy, and the other between Barnicot, Mazepin, and Newey. It seemed. Okay, it wasn't the cleanest race in the world, but Stroll closed back after dropping.
He did.
He closed back up and eventually made the move.
Yes, he dropped back significantly, and then absolutely not satisfied, came back at it and did get that place back. So Lance Stroll, the winner from Günther, Eriksson, Aron, Hubert, then Beckman, Eilert, Seta Kamara, PK, Nico Carey, then the top 10. Followed by Harrison Newey, P11, Guan Yu Xu, P12, then it was Mikkel Jensen, Nikita Mazepin, and then we lost, sadly, George Russell, Ben Barnicoat, and Nick Cassidy. So the cars will return to the pit lane then, and podium to be got underway for the FIA Formula 3 European Championship as we see a replay of Lance Stroll taking the checkered flag once again for Prema Power Team. Maximilian Günther taking P2 and Joel Eriksson then for P3.
Well, that's 9 race wins for Stroll so far this year. I mean, the second half of the season from Red Bull Ring onwards is really the championships really come to him in quite a significant way. And I believe off the top of my head that gives him a 75-point lead over Günther coming into race 3 tomorrow.
Well, Lawrence Stroll there, pretty delighted with that. And Lance exits the car then.
He's doing his stretches again, isn't he?
Yeah, you noticed that earlier on, didn't you? Sometimes it's nice just to try and listen in to hear what's being said, but sadly we don't have a camera with a live mic quite close enough to be able to get the most out of that as Antoine Hubert there.
It doesn't exactly look as if it's the most joyous of Parc Fermé meetings, really, is it?
In the championship, 346 points now over 271. It's a very nice position to have going into race 3 and then going into Imola as well.
It's a track that Prema know quite well.
Yes.
The championship was here 2 years ago, so the teams aren't going to be completely green going into it. Although I believe Motor Park are the only team who weren't there in 2014, so we'll see.
Okay, super slow-mos to the top 3 then. And it's Joel Eriksson who takes P3. Maximilian Günther then for Prema Power Team for P2. And then Lance Stroll, the winner of race number 23. Had to work hard for it, or harder for it, that's for sure. But he did it, and once again will be on the top step of the podium. there is the race winner, super slow-mo of him, and an overview of the still bathed in sunshine Nürburgring circuit here in the Eifel region of Germany, where race 3 for the FIA Formula 3 European Championship will take place tomorrow.
And Günther, of course, is pole position for that race as well.
Yeah.
It's with Stroll on P2, so we will see them battle it out again.
Yes. So drivers making their way up to the podium as we speak. So Stroll, Günther and Ericsson on the podium for the race 1, 2, 3. On the podium for the rookie 1, 2, 3, Joel Eriksson, Ralph Aron and Antoine Hubert.
That's a good, solid result as well for Ralph Aron. As we discussed earlier on, he's sometimes had an up and down season. He's maybe not been the most consistent driver in the world, but you know, he is a rookie and he seems to be pulling himself together somewhat as we come towards the end of his first season in European F3.
Yes, he and Joel Eriksson, of course, making their way into F3 from the ADAC Formula 4 single-seater series, which promises to promote some talent into FIA Formula 3 European Championship next year. And one of those, theoretically, could be one Mr. Mick Schumacher, of course, who is in competing in with Prema Power Team, not only in the ADAC Formula 4 Championship, but also in the Italian Championship as well.
He's actually racing at Vallelunga today, and it was very wet Vallelunga actually. They had
extraordinary, isn't it? And the sun is shining in Nürburgring.
I think there was safety car starts and all that kind of lark. But here we're actually in Nürburgring in incredible sunshine. Who'd have thought? Amazing,
isn't it? Absolutely amazing. Okay, so but that of course is for season 2017. Season 2016 is not done yet, as Ollie Sittler stands atop the podium then, and is about to drive bring the drivers out for their podium as the cars continue to go around the Nordschleife. It's really one of the interesting facets of the Nürburgring, isn't it? You've got this circuit here and the Nordschleife being used independently.
And you know what? I didn't know that until you told me yesterday. We were up in the Porsche.
What were all those cars doing going around there, Dave? Well,
looking at outside the window going, what's going on there?
Quite an eclectic mix at that time as well. It was a Fiesta and a Corsa or something, yeah. Run what you brung, I think. So to the very right of your picture there, you just saw Lawrence Stroll, and here is Lance Stroll.
And I think the other thing was it's a happy birthday for René Rossin, the team principal of.
Yes, we're having a slight argument about how old we think René is.
I still think he's only 21.
Yeah, you know the coffee's good at Prema, don't you? There is René Rossin, and there's Lance Stroll on the top step of the podium. There's Maximilian Günther, teammate down there, P2. And here comes Joel Eriksson.
And Maxi really doesn't look happy to have lost the lead of that race, you know, but as any driver would be, you know.
National anthem time for Lance Stroll. So the Hankook first cap goes atop the head of Lance Stroll. Manfred Hoffmann, the owner of Sonax GmbH, makes the trophy presentation to Lance Stroll. The Stroll mantelpiece will be made of strong stuff, I think.
I think they're actually getting a third room now for all the trophies that Lance has received all this year.
Lorenz Hoffmann makes the presentation to Prema, whose cabinet is not short of some silverware either. Maximilian Günther takes his trophy. And Joel Eriksson stands by for his.
I know I said it a moment ago, but it wasn't. It didn't seem like the happiest park firm in the world. You know, It looks.
I have to be honest, the podiums have been a bit subdued over the 2 races today.
Yeah, they have. Very much so.
Well, the biggest smile is from Maximilian Günther, who was the one that we expected to smile the least.
Yes.
Actually.
Goodness.
Stroll gets plenty of it. And
you know it's the end of the day, don't you?
Yeah. Takes a swig now, but yeah, even these celebrations, look, they're a bit...
And the interesting thing, I remember chatting to Stroll at Zandvoort after race 1. And he's asked him, are you, congratulations, are you happy about how your races, how you won your race? And so I've banked it. I'm already thinking about race 2 and race 3. Very much that kind of driver. He's kind of thinking already about what's going to happen tomorrow.
Which is the mark, I guess, of how you have to be. And there he is trying to shake away some of the excess Henkel Trocken, which went earwards. So there we have it. Race 2 done and dusted. Race 3 comes up tomorrow from Liam and myself. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye for now.